Be excellent to each other and party on. We're back for another Legacy League, and today we're playing Esper Vial, my favorite deck. A lot of people have been asking, hey, be excellent. Why don't you play some blue-black tempo or some decks that are seriously possibilities for Eternal Weekend? Well, I'm here to tell you that I have just published some videos of blue-black tempo, but that this is still my likely pick for Eternal Weekend. I love this deck. It's really strong because it attacks on so many angles and it just outvalues even the control decks. It has a lot of game against early reanimation effects. We've got 4 Solitudes. We've got 4 Force of Wills. We're going to be able to clear out the threats. We can work through the reanimated Archon of Cruelty, the reanimated Atraxa. I've worked through both of those in a game before. It's absolutely doable. This deck just generates so much value. Let's talk about how the deck works. So first of all, Aether Vial. You play it for 1 mana. It can be off anything. It can be off a Wasteland, turn 1. Then you wait, and it just ticks up and up. After it hits 1, you can drop Tamiyo in. After it hits 2, you can drop Psychic Frog in, or Baleful Strix. After it hits 3, you can recruit the guard for one of your many silver bullets in the deck, such as Lavinia, Hullbreacher, Harbinger of the Seas. These cards effectively end games, and they're a recruiter of the guard away. You can also get graveyard hate in the form of Bogard Trawler, which is also functionally part of our mana base. You can also get Witch Enchanter, which destroys artifacts or enchantments if they got an Urza Saga or some other problematic non-creature permanent on the table. And the really cool interaction of this deck is we have this new card, Overlord of the Balemurk, which when it enters, it gives you a really cool ability. You mill 4 cards, then you return any creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. So it's not just the milled cards, it's anything in your graveyard. You can't return an avatar creature, which means you can't return Overlord to itself. But if you look, this deck is playing 29 creatures plus a Tamiyo. So we are almost always, 33. There's actually 34 if you include the Yorion, which generally isn't in our graveyard, but I actually have returned it from the graveyard with Overlord and just won with it. Like my opponent red blasted my Yorion and I was like, sure. And I just attacked with Overlord and got my Yorion back and blinked my squad and just overwhelmed them. So it does come up. So this not only triggers when it enters, which it can enter for 2 mana with Impending, and then it just counts down to actually becoming a creature, but also whenever it attacks. And if you blink it with Flicker Wisp or with Felia, over here, Exuberant Shepherd, you immediately get the ability again, and it's immediately a creature. So it's a very strong interaction, and this is really the reason why so many people are playing Esper Vial right now. And when I say so many people, I mean so many people more than used to play it, which was basically 0. This deck hasn't been super popular since maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but it's gotten a lot stronger with this because this blink ability is very relevant. Flicker Wisp also notably hits, for example, your lands. So if you have a Witch Enchanter that you played as a Witch Blessed Meadow earlier in the game, you can just flicker it and it'll come back as a creature and it'll hit an artifact or a creature. You can do the same with Bogard Trawler and exile your opponent's graveyard at any time. And these come off of Vial. So if you have a Vial out for 3, you can uncounterably at instant speed put a Flicker Wisp onto the table and it will stop whatever removal your opponent's using. You just flicker and you save your Psychic Frog or you save your Tamiyo or whatever permanent it is that's getting that's under attack. A couple other things I'll say about this deck. Obviously, if you can get Vial up to 5, it's just insane because you're like Vialing in Solitude, uncounterably exiling their creatures, Vialing in Yorion, and just blinking all your ETB creature, your enter the battlefield creature trigger effects. So this deck is basically like blue-black tempo, except we're adding a bunch of cards. We're not really taking anything out of it. We're upgrading the removal, but we still have 4 Force of Will. We still have a Daze. We still have 4 Wastelands. I play the Daze as kind of like just a random surprise. Like it is kind of a tempo deck in the sense that you get a Vial down in every single Wasteland that you play. You just snap it off and shoot your opponent's lands because you don't really care about your mana that much once you have Aether Vial in play. That said, we do have basic lands. We've got a Caracas as our other utility land, and we do have 2 Surveil lands, which, nothing else is hittable on the board. Just go and hit your Surveil lands, and that is a relevant ETB trigger for Flicker Wisp. We're playing 15 fetch lands. That's a nod to the fact that we really do want to be able to fetch these basics if we need them, and we want to have just a lot of flexibility. Also, Almost everything in our deck is a permanent, so it is nice to have at least something going to the graveyard so we can feed Psychic Frog. But we have the 4 frogs, we've got the 4 Tamiyos. We're basically doing what blue-black tempo is doing, but we're doing it like at a much louder volume. Hullbreacher effectively ends games. The Happiest Pirate grabbing his treasure right out of the hull of the ship. Harbinger of the Seas effectively ends games against decks like Eldrazi, against 12 post, against Beanstalk players that just get greedy and don't fetch any basics. And by the way, when you're vialing this in, even if they have fetch lands, they can't do anything about it. The moment they see this on the table, it's too late. So it should be, and Lavinia. There's so many combo decks on MTGO. We're going to face a lot of them. And Lavinia just kind of shuts a lot of what they can do down, especially Karn Forge decks. Let's take a look at the sideboard. So the sideboard is really designed for 4 matchups. Eldrazi and 12 post and Karn Forge, which are pretty representative. I mean, that's like 15% of the meta right there. We've got 4 consigns for them. Hydroblast and Blue Elemental Blast. You might as well mix these up. They are really strong against Moonstompy and Painter. Very Macabre. The S tier deck, of course. Blue-Black Reanimator. We want our Fairy Macabres for those. It can come in as a one-of if you're up against like a Loam strategy, but we don't see too many of those these days. I've got a couple of Force of Negations and a Prismatic Ending. These are for like unfair, like just whatever, like Oops All Spells or Necrodominance. And then these Prismatic Endings are for fair matchups because we do occasionally run into, like against Blue-Black Tempo, you don't necessarily want to play Force of Will. You want to bring in Prismatic Ending. So we've got these just as something like more likely you're bringing out cards like Harbinger of the Seas and Lavinia against those fair matchups. And so it's nice to have something that kind of side grades or upgrades. So with that, we're going to play a full 5 rounds. As always, be sure to leave comments with timestamps if you see me make any mistakes or if you just have a question about any plays I do. I am not like an end time winner of Eternal Weekend or anything. I'm hoping to become a one-time winner of Eternal Weekend. We'll see. But I'm certainly going to put in a strong effort. And I am genuinely serious when I say that this list can work. It is a high skill deck. It does take a lot of clock, but it can close faster than ever with Overlord. So we're going to see how this does. I've got lots of other videos where I've done well with it. Some videos where I haven't done as well with it. But we'll see what the matchup gods give us in terms of whether we're facing a bunch of combo decks, which we're unfavored against, or a bunch of fair decks, and control decks, which I believe we are favored against. I'll see you in round 1. Round 1, we're up against likely Doomsday. This hand is fine. It doesn't really do anything to interact with Doomsday, but I think that's okay. Strix is really good if they go with a Frog Plan. All right, and we'll see whether we're dead. Oh, Tamiyo. We can definitely deal with that. It's also worth noting that Baleful Strix does Stonewall Tamiyo. At least they have to like have a brainstorm to flip her. All right, speaking of flipping her. I don't think we Solitude here. If we Solitude in the days, it's such a blowout. It is such a blowout if they have days. The problem is if they can handle Felia. If Felia sticks, then we're okay. But if Felia doesn't stick, we're in deep trouble. They haven't gotten any value off of her, so this is just a 2-for-1 for them. I think I'm going to go for it because I'm worried that they may have like indexed pretty heavily on this plan. There's the days. Yep, so we no longer have the Felia angle to pursue. We did set them back a land drop, but we've basically got like 2 turns to find something that can deal with her. It is worth noting that Flicker Wisp does cleanly deal with her, but we're not going to have the mana to deal with her like with them potentially having days. So what I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to Surveil here. And we're just going to try to find a Flicker Wisp, of which we have 3. I think that's really our only option. Or if we can somehow spike a Hullbreacher, that would be good too. T-minus 2 turns to death. And they are still working other angles. You know, they can still frog us. Yeah, I'm not used to them being able to turn 1, but that's something you can do if you have Lotus Petal. There's a lot of cost associated with putting Lotus Petal in your deck, but one of the upsides is you can have turn 1 Frog or you can have turn 1 Flip Tamiyo and really put a clock on them. Yeah, let's go ahead and go with the blue-black. Definitely don't want that land. Oh, no. This is bad. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'll keep the land for next turn, and we're just going to do this pitiful Baleful Strix. Probably won't do anything this game, but we will draw through it. If they daze it, it's actually not that big of a deal because it wasn't going to do anything for us anyway. Yeah, and they do daze it. So we have one turn to draw a Hullbreacher or a Flicker Wisp, and they can't have daze number 3 or a Force. So they're like very much all in on this. I'm trying to think if there's anything. There's like no way our deck outvalues. They would draw 25 cards, 24 cards, 23 cards if they fetch here. Psychic Frog is too late. They're almost certainly going to have Fatal Push. They've already seen quite a bit of our deck. They know we're on Yorion. I don't know that there's any disadvantage to just going for it here. And well, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I think we just concede. Like, I just can't imagine a world. A world in which they get greedy enough that we can somehow overpower. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have fun trying to do that. Let's just move on. They had an extremely explosive start, and those double dazes were brutal. It's worth noting that even had I not pitched Solitude there, and had I gone the route of playing out Felia, it still would have been too slow because they had the second daze. All right, so against Doomsday, you can bring in Consign. It's not great, but it is something you can do. Let's talk about what we're taking out. I don't think Harbinger is relevant here. Bogart Trawler, their graveyard doesn't matter. Not sure that there's anything to hit with Witch Enchanter either. So we can take those out, and we still have a healthy 29 mana count, mana base. I don't want to take out Daze. I don't want to take out Lavinia. Lavinia could randomly be helpful. We don't need to take out any of our core game plan cards. Strix is good against their deck, assuming that they don't immediately Tamiyo, flip Tamiyo. We could consider bringing in a Force Negation. I don't like that though, because Doomsday itself, well, yeah, I think it's better than the cards we took out. Are there any other one-ofs that could come out? Teferi can potentially be useful. Felia obviously combos with Overlord. I think we keep her in. Yeah, let's just do that. I mean, we could cut even more land, but then you get into the situation where you're potentially just getting a good hand with like the cards you want, but you don't have enough lands. So I think I'll leave all the lands. Usually the land to cut is Swamp if we're going to cut one. Is a Witch Enchanter worse than a Swamp? Probably. I don't suspect that they're going to have Wastelands. It'll be interesting to see what they bring in. I said in the deck tech that combo decks are kind of the kryptonite of big value decks like this. And I expect to be paired with combo at least 3 out of the 5 rounds. This is not a keepable hand. I'm going to mulligan this. Sadly. On the play, yeah, I mean, we just need something more proactive than that. Wait, did I keep that? Oh, I clicked keep instead of mulligan. That's embarrassing, but I think that's the first time that's ever happened. So, okay, we're going to make the most of this situation. I'll just throw out this Misty. It doesn't fetch anything. It can't fetch my non-island basics, but it can fetch the Surveil land, which is what I'm going to do here. And I'm going to hope they don't turn one us. Okay, another Tamiyo. If we park this Baleful Strix, then she's going to be a sad Tamiyo. Let's go ahead and Sewers. Force is a great pickup. It'll probably be relevant later. Obviously, we're going to play the Strix out either way. Black, blue. You wouldn't happen to have Daze in your hand, would you? It's worth noting that if we go get the Yorion next turn, we have both Force and... Oh, wow. They're valuing that quite heavily. They pitched one of their Thassa's Oracles, but they do have another one. So now they can... So they wouldn't have done that if they had a Brainstorm, because then they could just flip and ignore the... Oh, wow. Do they only have one land? We'll see. Wow, they only have one land. That's good for us. Overlord is sweet. We can use it to get back Balemurk. I'm just going to go ahead and cast it. Yeah, Overlord, we can use it to get back Strix, is what I meant to say. And I do think that that's better than going and get Yorion. We can use Yorion later. Wow. They really, they kept a very land light hand. They've already had to pitch 2 cards. They had to pitch a Daze, which wasn't going to get that much better. But I think that was their draw for turn because they would have just dazed the Strix instead of forcing it. So next turn, we're still just sitting, chilling, hoping to draw something good. But we can put Yorion into our hand. They're stacking up clues which are relevant. If the game goes on, and the game does go on, I don't end the game quickly. My deck can't really do that. But it's important to note, if they only have 1 land, they're not going to be cashing in those clues. It's just future value that we have to worry about. Let's get our archive here. Karakas does answer Tamiyo. Yeah. Oh, man. I don't know about this. I mean, it does allow us to like just keep looping Yorions, and they're unlikely to be able to answer it. I think I'm going to keep it. All right, and now I'm just going to go get Yorion. And then next turn, we do have Solitude if they play something out. We just have to set a stop in their begin combat so we can bounce then. The main reason I'm not bouncing immediately is because they could have a Brainstorm. They did find a land. We're going to bounce her. Do you have Brainstorm? No. Okay. So Karakas just is a one-of in the deck. I don't think it's worth paying more than that, but it does randomly just rock, you know? Okay, so if they still have a Daze in hand, this is a problem. Otherwise, Solitude should have us covered. I'm just going to play this out, and we're going to go all in. If they have 2 Dazes, that's really big trouble. But I don't mess around with these frogs. All right. Lunch. Now they've got very little going on, and we do have Force Up, and we are confident they don't have a Daze unless they just drew one. Of course, they could crack clues and find a Daze if they need to, but we're going to be out of Daze range pretty soon. It looks like they're going to redeploy Tamiyo. Dark Ritual. If this is Doomsday, I'm just going to force it. Yeah, I'm not going to mess around. Okay, we stopped Doomsday. There's the Tamiyo. We're just going to bounce her. I'll attack first just to give them an opportunity to sack it if they want to. I don't think that's a good play, but it's a play they might make. This is where I kind of regret not having more surveillance in my deck. Okay, so we're going up life, which shouldn't matter. This game is rarely decided through life total, but it is nice to have. They could untap and Brainstorm in response to Karakas. So by bouncing now, we do kind of force them to use their mana if they are going to, and that means they may not be able to crack a clue. So it seems good. And eventually we will draw land. And I'm not worried about deploying a bunch of lands. This deck is very mana hungry, and later, if we can get anything going, we're probably going to need all the mana we have. But it does suck that we had to pitch Yorion, which is, you know, a huge part of our end game. No more lands, please. All right, that's a great card. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and attack first. I'm just trying to think what we want to recruit her for. We have several options. I think the best thing to recruit her for is just something that can generate value. We'll take a look. So Hullbreacher is a good general card to grab. We could just grab a Psychic Frog. They may have a Fatal Push. They can turn their Fatal Push on with a clue. Felia is pretty damn good. And we do have the Karakas Protector. I think that's the grab. I kept one Felia in. Like, I'm not like super high on Felia right now, just because it seems like she always dies. Like, they always have some removal because she's very brittle and she has to attack in. Cavern. Okay. Wizard. That makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and get a Swamp here just in case they have like the... I'm trying to think of why, but I think it's free to do here. I'll get the Swamp. I'll get an island and then I'll get a Swamp. And we'll just have our basics out just in case. Heaven forbid they have something that interacts with it. But I don't think they are likely to do it. It's just that I've got so many other lands at this point that I don't think it's a big deal. Okay, so we'll bring on our Felia, who's going to generate insane value if she doesn't die here. They force, which is unfortunate. They pitched the Tamiyo, which was a dead card. So that was what I couldn't avoid. Any removal I could have bounced. And we're drawing nothing. But we do have them on a 3-turn clock. But that it's going to be hard for them to Doomsday and win here. I'm going to play out a land. Instep, they'd probably clue. Yeah. I mean, Doomsday could still win. It would just be very hard for them to win at this point. Because they would go to 4 and they'd be dead on board and they'd have to win the same turn they did Doomsdayed. I don't think there's anything else in their deck that is going to stop us. That does slow the clock down a little bit. But it's a good feel, like having your recruiter pushed. Psychic Frog. All right. That is something that can pull back into the game. There's the Tamiyo. Let's go ahead and bounce her back to hand. So we can't really attack them with Solitude. Oh my goodness, can I get something other than a land? Yeah, if they attack, we're going to crack back. I'm just going to go ahead and hit their land. This could turn on the ability for them to cycle. Nope. All right. I'm not worried about Psychic Frog drawing them cards if I'm hitting them and lowering their life total. They probably are going to attack in, I would imagine. Unless they're in a really, really passive state where they've got nothing going on over there. They're flying. All right. It's worth noting that they already did exile one of their... They did exile one of their oracles. I don't know why they're buffing that. You're not going to win through combat, I don't think, David. I would just hold cards until I got to a brainstorm, probably. Okay, Psychic Frog of our own. I think I'm going to start by attacking and just see what they do. I don't think they have anything that they can do here. But I guess Tamiyo is pretty worthless at this point. So maybe that's the reasoning. Yeah, and this is like the end game, basically. Like we used every single resource. We used the entire buffalo to try to get to this point. The entire whale. I'll happily let them connect so I can kill them next turn. Okay, and we can't attack them profitably, but they can't attack us, so... I would love a Flicker Wisp. A Tamiyo is not the worst. I can get a clue and then I can just bounce her in combat if I need to. They don't actually have that many hops left in their frog. They barely got any cards in their graveyard. That's a good card. By taking them off black when we wasted them, we did make it a lot harder for them to just Doomsday win out of nowhere. Yeah, but if they do find a brainstorm, they're going to wish they hung on to that Tamiyo, I think. Lavinia. You don't say. This is a pretty good card. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. So if they want to hop up and block her, they can. And I can just redeploy her. She's still going to be able to attack every turn. All right, they are doing it. I think this is a mistake. Unless I'm missing something, like maybe they have removal plus this. I think it's worth cracking this clue first. Just in case we find like a removal spell. Of course we found another land. All right, let's see if they have removal. Okay. All right. So I'll just redeploy her and we'll chill. We're getting close to cards in hand that we could use to just attack for lethal and have a force block. Yeah, and that helps a lot too. But I just want to be super careful. It could be that by being passive and like waiting around and just drawing cards with Tamiyo, that we are actually giving them the time they need to assemble Doomsday. That Overlord force was really important, by the way. Like Overlord, they don't have any removal for it in their deck, and we would have drawn so many cards. Like the game would definitely be over had they not forced that Overlord. Of course, then they would have forced something else that we did. Fatal Push on Frog is fine. They can't attack, so it just makes it a little harder for me to kill them. And then if they flip her, that could be an issue, but I don't think they're going to be able to. They're not attacking because that would be death. Okay, see if we can draw a non-land. Wasteland would be okay. That's a great card to draw. I'm just going to go ahead and attack now. I'll just attack with a Tamiyo. And this is why you hold your lands and you don't just play things out, because this brainstorm is Ancestral Recall here. Insane. Okay. So we definitely could have done this pre-combat and then just gotten rid of the frog and won. So we'll go ahead and plus. And then I think Overlord here. And that clears the top. We don't even need to use our fetch land. And I know I'm playing like really slow and I could just be much more assertive, but yeah, like we're going to have 13 minutes for the final game. Game 1 was so short that we just basically guaranteed that we'd have plenty of clock for the subsequent games. All right. So again, we won on the play. Even though I accidentally kept a hand that I meant to mulligan, it worked out. Prismatic Ending is an answer to a flip Tamiyo. I don't want to go too low on creatures. I feel like we could cut Negation. Negation's pretty bad. We could cut a Daze on the draw. They're not going to expect it though. I like having some counter magic in here. I feel like Consign is just like, it's not like a fantastic card. Would Harbinger have actually done anything there? It would have potentially screwed them off blue. But I still haven't seen any reason to have Witch Enchanter in the deck. I think we run it like this. So Ending does deal with Flip Tamiyo in a very elegant way, and that's one very strong argument for putting it in your sideboard if you're losing a lot to Tamiyo like we did earlier. Hullbreacher's nuts. Flicker Wisp is quite good. We've got the Prismatic Ending. Only thing we're really scared of is a fast Doomsday. I'm going to keep Tamiyo. I think we waste first. Do we waste first? I mean, they could very well have Daze. We do now have 2 ways to deal with her, but I mean, the Prismatic Ending is much more elegant. If we just waste them, their deck is so land light that they may not be able to recover immediately from that. I'm going to do that. Yes, they are gaining advantage every turn when they attack, but if their next land is like, a Caverns or something like that, then suddenly Daze is off the table. Okay, they did have a second land. If they put a lot of work into flipping her, that is fine with me. If they like brainstorm intentionally trying to flip her, they're not going to have a perfect brainstorm. But they can kind of hold up brainstorm to protect her now. Okay, Psychic Frog's good. I don't think we're at the Solitude Tamiyo phase, but like Doomsday, if they have a lot of these clues lying around, it is dangerous because they can crack into their Doomsday pile and they can get a really quick win. And I'm not going to attempt a Prismatic Ending when they can just brainstorm to protect. I'm not going to give them free lunches like that. I'm just going to Surveil here. And then next turn, if they're tapped out, we'll get rid of Tamiyo. It can be scary to watch those clues stack up over there, though. That's for sure. All right. I think we just let this happen. And yeah, I'm still not in the Solitude phase of the game. And I could get totally punished. If Solitude doesn't work, we also do have Flicker Wisp. Flicker Wisp is an ability that can flip Tamiyo back to creature form. So it's not like we're going all in on this Prismatic Ending, but it should be very good. They do have a second land, but they no longer have the ability to defend Tamiyo because once she's in Planeswalker state, you can't really defend her. Okay, and I'm going to hope that they're pretty in on Tamiyo here and that she's not like just some distraction while they get ready to Doomsday me. Vial is not something you throw back. Not in this deck, even at this stage of the game. All right, here goes nothing. Are we going to have to scrap or are we resolving this? They are forcing. All right, so now the name of the game is Final Land so that we can Flicker Wisp. I don't think Brainstorm makes sense here. I don't think that's good. What do they pitch? They pitch Force to Force. Man, if I lose twice in a row to Tamiyo, I'm just going to rethink my decisions in life. I think we go ahead and get Vial online and we just stay cool. Trust the process. I am going to get a second Tundra here because I do need to be able to cast Flicker Wisp, which is a double white spell. Psychic Frog is less important. Hullbreacher is an answer, but it has to stick. It's really something you cast in response to them ultimating, just to minimize the possibility of like a fatal push. If we don't find mana, we could be in a situation where even Hullbreacher is not viable. And I did cut 2 of the multi-face cards that are lands, so we only have 29 lands in our deck, which is still plenty, but we may not get there. Let's try this. Hopefully they don't have a second force. They pitched two. They've already used 2 of their forces. Okay, they're brainstorming. So they're not going to keep a... They're probably not going to keep it days because I have mana, but I will brainstorm to find a force if they find a force. Okay, they're fetching. They're going to cantrip again. Drawing off their clue. I'm so glad I added prismatic ending to my board. I would have been totally screwed without those. Like, just imagine those were random, kind of like one of creatures that I would be tutoring for. We just stopped a Tamiyo for 1 mana that was about to ultimate. It was like 1 turn away from ultimating, but it's really scary. All right, and now they have used a lot of their cantrips. They were really in on this plan. They have a frog. I don't know how the frog got in their yard. Maybe they surveilled it. I mean, frog's not very good in this matchup. I've got like tons of ways to kill a frog. And now we're approaching the Esper Vial section of the game where I just utterly take over the game by putting uncounterable threats, instant speed, including Hullbreacher, which is going to be absolutely backbreaking to their deck. But of course, if they have removal, this does die to removal like all other creatures. I doubt they're prioritizing finding removal, though, based on this board. They're trying to find Doomsday. When you're this far behind in a game, and I do believe they're behind, you do generally want to like look for the win button because they're getting mana. This could be a hard cast Doomsday. That would be definitely scary. Okay, options. 1, we brainstorm and maybe find a force. We do have a Hullbreacher we could pitch to force. Option 2, we just deploy a Psychic Frog. And they're going to have to pass the turn. So if we find a land off Brainstorm, then we can just cast the Hullbreacher. And assuming they don't have a way, they're going to have to draw through their pile naturally, including with this. If they get jumpy and they put out the Oracle before we're able, before they empty their pile, we have Solitude. I do think I'm going to Brainstorm. Just like Psychic Frog is good and all, but I'd much rather stop their card. Okay, we didn't find it, but we did find land number 3. So I'm going to put back Tamiyo. That's not what I'm going to be doing next turn. I'm going to be definitely deploying the Hullbreacher next turn. Overlord, Flicker with Overlord is great, but it's not going to matter this game, sadly. We may want to put back Solitude just in case they do have a... yeah, I'll put that back too. All right. Do your worst. So in exile currently 1 force. So we'll just wait for this to fill up and then we'll do a quick inventory. And I have a new acronym, which I'm going to share with you. It's called BCD FOP. So Buffalo Chicken Dip FOP. FOP is somebody who's like well-dressed or maybe overly dressed for an occasion. It's not some sort of weird slur or anything. My understanding is just he's a fop. He was a foppish. You know, he kept wearing fancy clothes when the situation did not call for it. So this means, so just to tell you what this acronym means and why I think it's good. B is brainstorm. So, and C equals cyclers, caverns. D equals, what does D equal? F equals force. O equals oracle. P equals, I think P just stands for ponder. But basically, like that acronym just gives me like something to remember. So first we're doing, okay, so first we're going to do B, brainstorm 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, next is D, days. 1, 2. So I think they likely have a days in hand, which is bad news because we wanted to resolve our Hullbreacher. F is force. So let's count the forces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. They're nice and they use matching. It saves a lot of time. I had somebody use all mismatched and it was an ordeal. Okay. And then F. So now we're on Oracle. And we can see that there's no Oracle in here, I don't believe. So they may have done a 2 Oracle pile, which is bad news because it means that even if we stop their first one, we still have to stop their second one. And then, so I think likely they do have a daze in hand. Have they given us any reason to suspect that they don't have a daze in hand? Okay, so yeah. So what do we know is likely in their hand? Oracle and Cyclers. But how many Cyclers do they have? So they have one. So they may have put a single Street Wraith in the sacrifice land, and their cavern is definitely in there. So let's live in a world where they only have one daze. We resolve Hullbreacher. The game is probably over. But if we're not in that world, we're in deep trouble. I will be able to Psychic Frog. So I'm drawing a white card, I believe, this turn. I believe it's Solitude. So we can Psychic Frog, and then we can attack and potentially lethal them. But I'm deathly afraid. If we wait a turn, then we can Hullbreach. I mean, we're going to have to Hullbreach either way. I think we wait and see what they do. This way, our Solitude can't be forced. Or can't be dazed. Let's attempt a Hullbreacher here. They're almost certainly going to daze it. Okay, they did have the daze. Yep, that sucks. All right, so what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and play out our Frog. And I'm just going to pitch my entire hand. So they're dead in 2 swings. Otherwise, they are definitely going to just take our Solitude, and we will have nothing we can do. I think we probably still lose here. I mean, there's an argument that had we just done this. Oh, I remember what P stands for now. It stands for push. Did we check to see whether they took out their fatal pushes? Well, we'll see. There's the fatal push. Toasted. Wasted. That's what they say. Yeah. Damn, dude. That is terrible. And now they basically have free range. I put one other card on top. I can't remember what it is, but it's not going to matter. Like, we're so dead. What was it that I put on top? Yeah, sorry. I was not expecting to get stomped by Doomsday when I had like so many different angles to work here. Yeah, this doesn't do anything, unfortunately. I think we do get Yorion, but they're just going to win. Like, I'm trying to think about a world where they don't just win next turn, but playing out Tamiyo like does nothing. Yeah. I mean, maybe you could argue Tamiyo could crack a clue and we could draw into something if they do have like, but next turn, like assuming that they are drawing one of their oracles, they can just win. So yeah, I forgot to look for push, but usually they don't have all 4 pushes post board. Let's see, 1, 2. Yeah. So they were only playing 3 pushes, but I mean, I guess they could have a 4th push in hand, but if they had that push, you know, maybe they just do that instead of dazing. I don't know. They had the free daze. Yeah, we're dead. So anyway, good games, David, as always. And yeah, I'll try to play tighter and remember my own acronym that I created. Yeah, good games. Okay, so let's go to round 2. Welcome back for round 2. We are up against somebody who the only record I could find was them playing Mono Red Prison like 2 years ago at Eternal Weekend. So if they're on a similar kind of deck, this is a great hand. I think we keep this. This is totally fine. We're on the play. I am going to fetch an island here. There's no reason to expose ourselves. Island's our most critical color here. And we can even potentially fetch a swamp if we need to. But I'm just going to open with an Aether Vial. They are a fan of the channel. I think it's more likely that we'll want to get a basic plains. So I'm just going to use this to get the island. All right. Vial coming down. Don't force me. If Vial makes it to the table and they're not on like, you know, some blue-white control deck, then it's probably going to stay there and it's probably going to take over the game. All right. They are on a blue-white deck and I think this is likely to get prismatic ended. Okay. Ponder has resolved and they did not shuffle. So I would imagine they're looking for some sort of answer to Vial. That's what I would be doing if I were them anyway. And because we have Vial, We can play a tempo plan and we can just waste them. We did draw a land, which is a bummer. But we do have Brainstorm to fix this later. I'm not going to try to do the turbo Tamiyo into Brainstorm thing. I think that's a combo player mentality. Like for me, I want to get the clue. This could be Beanstalk if they're playing green. Yorion revealed. I mean, this definitely gives me Beanstalk vibes. Nadu and the other green blue decks don't generally play this. All right, we're going to drop our Tamiyo into play. It's weird that it put it way over here. All right. I'm kind of cool with just like leaving this in play and baiting potential forces. I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere. I will keep Brainstorm and I'll potentially use it, but I don't want to use it unless I have to. Brainstorm is a huge asset and people use it way too early in the game, in my experience. Right now we do have lands to put back, but there's nothing wrong with playing a few more lands. This deck will use those lands eventually. So if this is Beanstalk, I might actually force it. I think I am going to force this. I'm just trying to decide if they are likely playing Days, which I don't think they are. I do have the ability to crack this and okay, resolve. That's great. All right, yeah. Beanstalk, you never let them resolve Beanstalk. Like I've played a lot of Beanstalk over the years. Over the year, I guess the Beanstalk has been printed. It feels like years in Legacy time. In this post-fire design world we're living in. I guess I grab Underground Sea here. Is it better to surveil or to go ahead and crack the clue? I think I would just want to take the clue now. And we're just going to get that yummy clue. And we get another land. Yeah, Brainstorm would have been good. Okay, and the answer, like, historically was, oh, leave it on 2 because you've got like mostly 2-drops, but you know, you could draw something like that. I kind of think that just like if they're on a multicolored deck like this, it might be correct to just go ahead and get the Harbinger. That doesn't do a lot, but it doesn't have to do a lot. I think if they didn't force that, we weren't tapped out, they could have Days. The other option is to just go ahead and get like a Psychic Frog or something that's just generically good. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to wait and see what they do. And then I can use the vial. Because I will have a clue and I will have a surveil land activation / basic. I'm just going to play patient. I'm going to channel my inner Bob Ross and just, you know, make those little fluffy clouds. That's fine. They're using a weird art Brainstorm. Like it just weirds me out, like seeing this classic Christopher Rush art in modern frame. Ponder. They did get a Plains, which now I don't really want to go get the... Okay, is there a way I can save her? I don't think there is, sadly, because I don't have any flash creatures that draw a card. She's already generated value. I think I'll... Well, I'm gonna go ahead and look, but I'm almost certain there's nothing I can do here. What is the best card we can get here? Lavinia does stop a lot of their shenanigans. I feel like Harbinger is no longer any good. I'll probably just get Felia, and then I can end-step Flasher in. Yep, that works. So Felia will be able to tutor here, assuming she resolves. But that is a big if, because they have every incentive to stop her from resolving. I think here, like, I don't really need black mana. I've got the Vial going up already. I'm just going to go ahead and get my Plains here, just in case they do have, like, Wastelands or something that I'm not expecting. It's a very conservative approach. They could force this. That's a very defensible play, in my opinion. And now, unfortunately, I can't crack the clue. Let's see if I draw something live or if I just draw another land like I've been drawing. It's very live. I mean, it just comes down next turn. Other option, we could crack the clue and see what we draw, and then we could just Overlord. I think that's fine. Another Vial. I am kind of worried that they can remove Overlord, but it's fine because what I can do next turn is I can just blink it. So yeah, with Yorion. So I am going to go ahead and just... Overlord is coming in. We are going to be using the trigger, and I believe Feli's the only option, but she's a good option. And yeah, we'll just pass. I'll hit him for 1. There's no risk. I don't think they have any, instant any haste creatures in the deck that we need to worry about. So if this vial actually goes up and we're able to actually get Yorion out, like we become incredibly favored. They really need to deal with this vial now. This tells me they're playing the Leyline Binding version. Earl's fine. Not terribly worried about him. I can go get the Bogart Trawler. Bogart Trawler cannot come down next turn though. So there is a window where Yorion, where Uro might be able to come into play, but I'm not worried about him long term with the number of exile effects I have in my deck. All right, this will go up to its final resting place at 5. Oh, we're getting a lot of lands. I'll go ahead and play this out, and we're just gonna start by attacking for 1. And now we're about to value our faces off. Yes, I'm going to use the ability. I'm going to put Yorion into play. Okay, Yorion's ability. He's going to exile both of these. And we're going to go to Value Town. So I think it is possible this whiffs. I'll see what it hits before I search. No triggers. So we did whiff even with that many creatures in our deck, and it does happen. But it just shows you how important it is to play a lot of creatures. Okay, so I think at this point, Hullbreacher is really good. Trawler does deal with the Uro next turn. I think getting a Solitude is fine because we have lots of ways of casting it. We can even pitch cast it if we need to. I am kind of regretting not playing out a Vial there. So instep, I'm just going to Surveil land. They're going to need a lot. Oh, Triumph does not really even register on the list of things that we're worried about. Yeah, I think Triumph is just not that great of a card, in my humble opinion. She's definitely better in this shell, but like every time I've ever drawn her when I played with her, I've just wished she was a Murktide. I guess that's not totally true. There have been like some aggro matchups where she is better. It sucks that they played that out because now they don't have the ability to. It sucks for them that now they don't have the ability to use their domain to get the thing. I'm sorry, my words are failing me. I do think it's worth Fellying here, even though we have like insane value. Yeah, I'm just gonna Felly, yeah, because we can now with Felia out, we can not only Solitude, but we can like potentially like blink. Or we could just blink this out of the way and just attack for a bunch and completely ignore. Okay, they conceded. All right, so long game. Just because like I had a bunch of IRL stuff I was getting up from the chair constantly and dealing with, but you shouldn't hear any of that because everything's edited out. And we're gonna go to game 2. In this matchup, I do think there's an argument to be made for Prismatic Ending because getting rid of Beanstalk is so essential. Fighting Beanstalk on the stack with Force Negation could also be done. We did see a red land, but that's probably for domain purposes. I don't think the Hydroblast are going to matter here. Enchanter is a pretty good way to get rid of Beanstalk. I mean, again, like if you can answer a Beanstalk on the stack, it's so good. Cards that are not going to be good. I don't think Days will be particularly good on the draw. They have tons of mana. Yes, it can surprise them, but like they have tons of mana. Harbinger is actually quite good here. Lavinia is kind of good. I mean, it does stop them from casting Leyline, which they are definitely playing. I'd be amazed if they could actually interact meaningfully with our lands. So I do think I'm going to cut the Swamp. That's my go-to like land that I cut when I cut a land. Prismatic Ending also deals with another card that can be really annoying. By the way, on the note of Carpet, we really don't have very many fetchable lands. I kind of want to put a Swamp back in, but yeah, if they Carpet, then it's gonna be sad. This is a great hand. Wasteland is very live against them. Force is like I will happily pitch a Frog to stop a Beanstalk. Right, so I'm just going to play out this land that's almost certainly going to fetch a Surveil land. Actually, I'll play this out. And we're going to hope to just win a fight over the initial Beanstalk. Even if they fight on the stack while Beanstalk is out, they're not going to get the triggers. The real danger is when they actually have a Beanstalk on the table and then they have Force or Leyline or, they're miracling Triumph or something like that. That's when Beanstalk gets out of hand. As long as you can stop it and you just exhaust all resources, everything you can possibly do, you do to stop a Beanstalk. Let's go get I'm going to get a Sewers because I'm definitely going to want a Overlord next turn. I think that's better than playing out Lavinia because Lavinia is going to just eat a plow. I actually want to keep this. Do I want to just start going after the lands? I think I'm going to do that instead of Overlording. And that gives me a couple extra turns I don't really have any reason to do this right now. But like their deck is so mana hungry and they play so many non-basics that I think it's totally defensible to do that. Okay, and they're going to fetch. They're probably going to get a Surveillant to try to dig for... that's a card that they can play too. And I think as long as we get that off the table, it'll be very hard for them to establish domain, and they're going to have to pay a fortune for their... they have their own Wasteland. Please, by all means, get into a Wasteland fight with me. So, I'm not sure what the rest of their hand looks like, but I feel very confident that there's a saying when two people start wastelanding one of them is usually wrong. I'm just going to wait till the upkeep to do it. I don't think there's any downside. If they tap out, I'll waste it then. And I believe, looking at my hand and the nature of my deck, that I am right in wastelanding them. This is fine. I'm going to let it resolve first and then I'll waste. All right, and Hullbreacher is potentially an even better card to pitch to Force. They do have the basic island. Okay, and they have the Ponder, which I'm going to let them have. I don't think forcing Ponder in this situation is correct, even though it could unlock them. If they shuffle them, we'll have reason to suspect that this is their last land. Okay, they didn't shuffle, so I think they probably have another land coming. Okay, and it would have been great if we had been able to deploy this first, but we just drew it. Real question is, do we want to go ahead and play some basics now? I think I am. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to go get a Tundra here, and I'll Vial off Tundra. I will absolutely fight for this Vial if they go after it, because this is like look at our hand. This Vial is going to be worth its weight in gold. Plains, okay. No prismatic ending. This is 2 of their 5 colors that they need to be a scary deck. But these are their 2 most important colors. That's good. I'm just gonna... Should I Overlord? I think I do. I don't think that they likely have any sort of daze type spell. They could. They could absolutely have a daze. But this will give us some momentum, which we're always in favor of. And it cannot easily be killed. All right, it resolves. Please flip 1. Okay, it did flip a Tamiyo, so that's great. This is Force Fodder, or we can just Vial it in. Either way is great. I will wait till they're in step to Vial and Tamiyo, just in case they do have Prismatic Ending. But if they have Prismatic Ending, they should definitely be aiming it at our Vial. All right, they now have 3 colors. Uro is fine. I don't think we go after Uro here. They need 2 land to unlock Uro because of basic planes. It makes it a lot harder for them to get it. Okay, and they didn't have a land to play, which is a great sign because them having a lot of mana is really scary. They did have a land. Okay. All right, and we could be walking into a plow, but we will happily send our Tamiyo into a plow. Yeah, that is totally fine with me. I'm not going to defend her. It's a 1 for 1. Now this ticks up. We hope that they don't have further plows. I do think it makes sense to play out the Lavinia just because she represents shutting off a lot of their deck, like ley lines, forces. So I am going to play her out first, and then I'm going to play out the Psychic Frog. And they can't force this, or it's countered. So we have force up, they don't, which is a good place to be. Overlord ticks down. Next turn we have Hullbreacher. Hopefully we never even have to cast this force, or maybe we hard cast it later in the game. All right, Ponder is resolving. All right, and this is totally fine. I don't really care about that frog. Lavinia is my lock piece, and Hullbreacher is going to be my other lock piece. I just want to run through their plows because that's a very powerful, very relevant card that they have. There's Uro number 2, which is fine. We are going to need to nuke their graveyard pretty soon, though, because they have 2 Uros in there, and that is a lot to fight through. Wow, Karakas, such a beating. They still can't bring back Uro, but that is a very good land for them to find. And they probably just have one of it in there. I mean, I've only got one in my 80 card deck, so their Karakas density is slightly higher than mine. All right, I don't think it's likely that they're playing Harbinger of the Tide. Do we want this? This is an above average draw. It's a blue card for force. I'm going to put it on top of my library. Okay. We're going to go yes here. As soon as they pass priority. We'll draw a Tamiyo. We do have the option of putting Yorion into our hand, but I think that's incorrect. I'm just going to play this out. And next turn we'll start attacking with it. There's no point in playing Lavinia. Lavinia is almost certainly going to be staple to this force or the Solitude. If they do get an Uro going, I will definitely Hullbreacher, and then I'll have enough mana to Solitude next turn. Although they will have Karakas to bounce it back to hand, so they can fizzle my Solitude, but I still get to keep the creature. Okay, now they do have enough mana. If they put a Plow on top, that's going to suck. They're putting instead a Brainstorm, which is fine. I would love for them to Brainstorm here. It's worth noting that they can't respond to the Hullbreacher if they Brainstorm. They have to have Plow in their hand right now, or they just return a Brainstorm to the top of their deck that they're not going to be able to cast. Okay, I'm going to do this. And then I'm just going to wait and... But if they do Brainstorm, it's going to be so sweet. I think we just lock it in their hand. I don't think we get cute. All right, we get the coin. I mean, they make it look like he's just Scrooge McDuck. That is fun. I'm actually really happy that they did that because now Solitude is live. Depending on what I draw here. I may just Solitude now, or maybe take a hit first. It's not that big of a deal. The main thing is stopping anything that stops this, because I can kind of solo their deck with Hullbreacher out. We know they have a Brainstorm in hand that they can't use. They're going to be giving us treasure tokens every time they cast anything. Okay. I think we just chill, because they could have... No... I think I'm going to go ahead and hit it now while the shields are done. I did consider chilling, but I'd rather just get rid of their Uro and attack. Next turn, we can put Yorion into our hand, and we can, do this again. Yeah, I think them bouncing Tamiyo was risky when they could have protected their creature. All right, so we're very close to getting Overlord, Yorion, like everything's going our way. We have 8 minutes. We have to win this round and potentially the subsequent game. But because it's just been like a very kind of click intensive, and also, like I mentioned, like IRL distractions and stuff. Are they going to bring back other Uro? That would be fine with me too. This will go up. Another Solitude. Just ridiculous. I think we go ahead and attack first just to see what they do. We have Solitude that we can vial in if they put a scary creature into play. Now I'm just going to go ahead and get my Sky Noodle. And then I think we just put them into play and immediately get the Overlord value. Yeah, I'm going to do that. They can bounce him back to our hand if they want to do us a huge favor. I'll just do that. If they do have like a Daze or a Consign to Memory or something, like I don't want to get completely blown out. This is awesome. This will be a great card. Definitely got our hooks in. It's just a matter of grinding them out now. Here comes Uro. It's no problem. I'll just let it resolve. We will be able to get a token off of it. They're not going to get a card. They get a land drop if they want, but the main thing is we're just going to Solitude it. They're going to gain some life, but we're going to keep grinding them. That's what this deck does. In paper, this would be a matchup that would be a serious risk of going to time. I did, right. I do think it's fine to play out this land. I'm just going to go ahead and do this now. Just Solitude their creature. They can bounce it back to hand, that's fine. But I'm going to hit them for a lot. Okay. Let's hit them for, like 16, 15. That's a lot of damage. And we'll just do the same thing next turn. I'll get a Strix, sure. I think here we can just play out. I'm trying to think if there's any lights out card in our deck. I mean, Lavinia is the lights out card, but it's not really lights out. Let me think about this for a second. Obviously, we just get another Solitude. That's pretty good. Oh, I can get the... okay, they're forcing this. Wow. Deal. I'm just gonna go ahead and cast my Strix. Last land. I guess I had to use my treasure, but it's okay. I'll get a card off this. Yeah, if we have to go to game 3, I'm super screwed with how slow I'm playing, but hopefully that won't be the case. Another Vial, I'm not going to bother playing it out. It'll be a card that gets pitched to Psychic Frog. So they can gain some life and they can get an Uro in their graveyard, but that's about all they can do. There's definitely an argument for if that resolved, the Recruiter resolved me going and getting a Harbinger of the Seas. Okay, yeah, they concede. Okay, so yeah, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This deck just grinds traditional control decks because they cannot deal with creatures that also 2-for-1 like these do. Even if you wipe the board, okay, I can rebuild really quickly. So the weakness of this deck is just combo. I would argue that this is almost like the apex deck in terms of ultimate inevitability. I mean, Death and Taxes is a more pure incarnation of that. But Death and Taxes, crashes to combo even more. So I would say maybe Death and Taxes is the ultimate grind deck, but I don't want to be playing Death and Taxes on MTGO. That would be absolutely miserable. If you want to watch somebody who does do that to themselves, Akaleth, I think is the name. They have some pretty good Felia related content. But I'll see you in round 3 or 101. All right, round 3, Brogtar. Unknown opponent, we're on the draw. This is a snap keep. This has everything. This is the strength of the deck. Flicker Wisp is a later game card, and I would definitely put that back if we were mulliganing, but I'm not at all sad to see it here. Should be useful for a lot of different situations, but it is going to affect how we fetch. We're definitely going to be fetching non-basics here so we can support a later Flicker Wisp. Okay, Eldrazi. Baleful Strix is good against Eldrazi if our lands don't get exiled. I think we open with... I mean, we could go basics. I don't think we really have that luxury, though. I'm probably going to plow whatever their first threat is. Very scary land drop to have in Eye of Ugin. Thought Nasir. I think we could just plow this and just let them take whatever they want to take. Really in the market for Wasteland now. Thankfully, I do have 4 of those. But I think they're likely going to take plow if they get a shot. So, yeah, let's see what we draw and see if they get an even better target. I think Solitude is probably the pick. They might take Psychic Frog. So it's essentially like a 1-for-1. Okay, yeah, they took the Psychic Frog. So we plowed, they took the thing. We got our card back. It's a wash. Definitely not the scariest thing that Eldrazi can be doing. Which Enchanter could be relevant? I think I'm really tempted to Strix here. That's our best play, but it also does leave us stone dead to them having green source plus, I'm going to go ahead and Strix here. And being able to flicker your Strix is not nothing. I mean, it's an extra card. Even in this incredibly aggressive economy, extra card draw is not bad. Tamiyo is our force card. We'll force Fleshraker. Don't know what else we would force. Obviously, oh yeah, well, I guess we're not going to be forcing anything. We'll probably force like a mid-game. Gosh, please don't have like a... If they just exile both my lands, I'm going to be so upset. Or they exile one and then they waste the other. So I was going to say, like, Force Will basically is only good if they multi-spell or if they cast K-Command, which they may do. What? No play? How is that possible? They don't really have any instant speed stuff. They may have a K-Command, which I would be so relieved because I can actually stop. Aether Vial is great. It is late. However, we could immediately deploy it, basically. I think I'm going to Flicker Wisp the Baleful Strix and just get the extra card draw. Right, Aether Vial has to be the play. Yeah, I think it's going to be Aether Vial. I mean, we could Aether Vial and Tamiyo, and then we can just bounce her back to hand if we need to force something. Oh, wow. No play. Like, no end-step Kozilek's command or anything. I think this is where our lands get exiled, though. Yeah, green. Right. Are they going to go after our Karakas? They are. All right, they still got 4 cards left in hand. Is Tamiyo going to get us anywhere we need to go? I don't think so. I think I'm going to bounce her. I can always redeploy her later. So now, let's say hypothetically they did have a follow-up card, like just a 0 cost, spell. We could force that, but I think Tamiyo is like really weak in the matchup in general. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play out Witch Enchanter and pretend we live in a world in which they wouldn't Sowing Microspawn twice. Oh, I got a land. That's great. So we may be able to claw back into this. Flicker Wisp is really good. They have 23 life. Do I want to trade my Strix for anything? Not really. I think I actually just attack. How do they get life? Oh, because I plowed the Thought-Knot Eater. Yeah. I think I'm just going to do this, and I'm not going to block the Sowing Microspawn. I'm going to use my life total as a resource. This will almost certainly be getting a Surveil land. We just don't have the luxury of playing on basics. Surveil land can hopefully get us closer to a Wasteland. Fleshraker. Well, they didn't freaking make it uncounterable, so I'm definitely going to counter it. I'm not sure why they did that. Maybe they have a second one. It just seems weird. I mean, that's the best card in their deck. Sowing Microspawn. Exiling that. Terrifying. I mean, now I might have to get a freaking island. Yavimaya. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's just it's a tough matchup for sure. We are still in a situation where like their hand is small enough and we might be able to trade off material and get into a Harbinger victory. But we're going to need several turns to get our Vial up that high. I guess the real question is, do I want to surveil trying to find a Wasteland? Because if I find a Wasteland and hit the eye, that's good. But we're going all in on Vial if that's the case. I do think we go all in on Vial. I think this is the correct thing. This is going to get wasted if we ever play it out. It's probably better just playing it out as a creature. Tamiyo is not good enough. Really want a Wasteland. We have to hit this soon. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They need 7. Does this work for effects? Yeah, so they can use that for eye as well. Harbinger naturally drawn. You love to see it. I think this is actually a situation like basically our plan is trade these off, wait, hope that they don't like totally murder us. There's no point in casting playing another land for the entire game, basically. I need to get this Vial up to 3 so that I can use it to Solitude the remaining Sowing Microspawn. Along the way, we may be able to flicker or something. I don't think that'll be relevant, but this being a 2-drop that can potentially blow up an artifact is potentially relevant. We could play it out as a land, but I think it's better as something to emergency pitch. Let's do some math. So they're attacking for 6. We block. Now we're taking 3. We go to 10. Next turn, we go to 7. Following turn, we go to 4. I think, yeah, if we can get Harbinger into play, we might be able to steal this one. but only if we're actually able to use Solitude to kill the other one. If we wait a turn, then we can pitch Enchanter to Solitude and flicker the Enchanter, and then or flicker the Solitude, and then not only is it in play, but it exiles a second creature. I think that's the best path forward. But I will happily trade off just to prevent some damage here, because our victory is very much based around getting Harbinger to stick. Once is fine. It's scary. We'll see what they come up with. Scariest thing would be another Fleshraker for sure. But they're down to 1 card in hand. They're not quite to Eye of Ugin mana. Actually, yeah, they're 1 away from Eye of Ugin mana because they can tap Eye of Ugin thanks to this. I really do hope that they waste me here. Devourer of Destiny can exile any colored permanent, but it can't hit my Vial. This is going to be an absolute nail biter. I'm so happy they wasted me. This does put... I think Devourer of Destiny is colored permanents, right? It's not just exile target permanent. Yeah, that's fine. So we're in trouble, but we're not dead. And it may look like that we're dead. How are we still alive? But don't we? We're going to exile 2 of their creatures. We're going to have a lifelinker on the table. And they're running low on steam here. They're going to gain a ton of life. And they may be able to wrangle their way out from under the Harbinger, but we are going to do that. Okay, Recruiter. Great card. We're probably just going to leave this on 3 until the end of time. Witch Enchanter, not that great of a card. So here's what we're going to do. Exile. Evoke trigger on the stack. And now exile. We're going to exile Devourer. Now we're going to go ahead and activate this. We're going to flicker Solitude. That's gone. Now end step, Solitude will return and it'll take out the other Sowing Micah spawn. Flicker Wisp is so much better than Felia here. Felia would have attacked and died in the process of trying to do that, and we can't do that at instant speed off of a Vial. Felia can never flicker a Solitude unless like the Solitude's already in play. She can never do it off of an Evoke. That was a big swing. See what they have to follow up. It may not matter if they just have another, Devourer. Okay, so yeah, they're going to deal with both of our permanents here. Oh, yeah. Big deck does what big deck things, basically. All right. We could Recruiter for a Solitude, and we probably need to. I'm going to trade this off. I'm too low in life. I don't have the luxury of keeping it around. This also has 3 power, which is very nice. Yeah. They have more. Chalice. Okay, that doesn't matter to us right now. Okay, I'm actually very happy that was their last card. So we're not going to go up. We have too many awesome 3 drops in our hand. The first is going to be we really need to get Solitude. Okay, so option 1, we just let them hit us, but then we're dead to a single Glaring Fleshraker. But we do shut off their ability to go get stuff with Eye. I think we do this. I'm going to let them hit us, and hopefully they're never going to be able to do anything for the rest of the game. We just have to deal with this. So what I'm going to hope to do is Recruiter for another Solitude to get rid of this, and then we have to attack them, so many times before they find their basic. But we may draw other stuff that we can put in off of Vial. We don't have any creature we can get off Vial that just kills this. But this, they could be Eye of Ugining or doing any number of things right now if we hadn't dealt with that. Okay, so we're going to keep this here, and we're going to hope to draw a white card. White card, please. Strix doesn't do it. We can chump for a turn. Yeah, I think I am going to go ahead and just Recruiter here. I should have waited until later. There's no reason to put this out now, because now they could potentially get rid of it, and then we'd have to chump with the Harbinger, which would be basically the same as dying. Are any of these good? Flicker Wisp keeps us alive unless it's search every turn, but that's not powerful enough. I think we do have to get the Solitude, and we have to hope. Flicker Wisp keeping us alive. We're not going to have this to flicker is the issue. We could get another Recruiter of the Guard and we could just tread water that way. I kind of like doing that. That's like really cheeky. I'm going to attack because we're dead either way. Like if they have something. We just have to hope that they don't fund their basic force or the basic waste if they play one. There's also an artifact that they can play that taps for all 3 of the colors that they use, including colorless. My poor Recruiter being fed into whatever this crazy thing is. We're not going to ever tick this up, unfortunately. It's just going to stay on 3 until we can eventually... Oh, no. We can't crack that. It is an island. Doesn't really do anything. I'm going to play it out. And then I'll just Recruiter again. And I think Recruiter one more time, and then when we find the white card, we can Solitude this. We can actually do this 2 more times. I'm such a coward. I know that this is like super cowardly, but like, what choice do they give us? Look at their insane deck. Oh, sorry. Eldrazi is not okay. Okay, yeah, and they would be like in Eye of Ugin Town, like so deep by this point. Okay. No. Right. Oh, we got it. Okay. Well, I think we attack here. Do we have the option of not getting Recruiter and going up somehow? If we could survive 2 turns. Oh, we can survive 2 turns. So I can do Recruiter this turn, and then next turn I can tick up to 4 after I put Recruiter in, and then I can have Solitude, and I'll put Solitude in off Vial. Yeah. This is good practice. Like, we actually might run out of time. Their deck is like really pretty like straightforward to pilot. It's a very linear deck. Not to throw any shade on people that play Eldrazi, but it's an aggro deck, right? It's like the best aggro deck basically ever. And it's not known for like its nuanced lines and stuff. I mean, there might be some calculation of like, oh, I can, Fleshraker here. And so let's go. I'm going to go get the Solitude here. And they're going to be very confused when I don't actually use it. Correctly block every time. Okay, so I have to hold Control while I press this. Control. And now we're going to use the ability. We're going to put Recruiter in. I'm just going to go get yet another Solitude. Solitude is a sick card. Now we are going to use the ability to take it up to 4. And next turn it'll go up to 5. And I'm going to attack. I mean, we are making progress. We have to kill them eventually. At any point, they can just, delete us if they can get rid of this or if they have some mana source. All right. Look at how hard we're working to beat Eldrazi. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything we could do that's better than just, killing them with, like solituding their creature. I can't think of any reason to wait. I'm going to just chill. I'm sorry, any reason not to wait. All right, gain a bunch of life, and we will eventually strip you of that life. Always know. We now have 3 lands, which means we can go get Yorion. I don't think Brainstorm is particularly useful here. We can't put anything back. I think it is fine to just get Yorion and have yet another thing we can put into play. It is weird to have land in play after getting Sowing Michael's Bond with Kicker twice. They are holding out because they know that, our clock is way lower than theirs. Okay, they're casting something. The One Ring, sure. All you want for a short period of time. Yeah, I mean, if they get to, I'm like super duper dead to Glaring Fleshraker. I could have definitely I could Solitude my own thing. That's an option. Yeah, I think I should have probably put Yorion in just as an attacker there. That was probably loose. Oh yeah, it doesn't matter because again, the One Ring bubble. So we're probably going to draw again. I didn't even realize they had the One Ring in there. That's good to know. It's yet another reason to be playing 4 of the... I'm just going to go ahead and put Yorion in. It just hits a little bit harder. Teferi is pretty good. We can't cast it. We did get out of our life total deficit, so I'm very confident that we're going to win this game. It's just a question of how quickly we can win, how much clock. Because we cannot win quickly, and we may go to time, which would be probably the first time a match with Eldrazi actually went to time in history. They can ring again. They're dead on board. Even if they find mana for Fleshraker, they're not going to be able to use it fast enough. I'm going to discard some cards here. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to attack in. Oh no, I don't technically have lethal. Well, the ring will be lethal. All right. I'm going to chill and wait for them to die. 9 minutes for 2 more games. That was a freaking game 1. My goodness. Leave a comment if you thought I had any prayer of winning that one. Because I certainly didn't. I thought I was so dead and I was just like playing it out. All right. So consigns are coming in. That much is clear. Prismatic Ending. They do play Chalice. Prismatic Ending is pretty bad against their deck in general, but not as bad as Lavinia or Daze on the draw. Bogart Trawler is pretty terrible. Like the graveyard doesn't matter. It is a land, but like shocking in land doesn't feel good. Witch Enchanter is pretty bad, but it is a land, so I think we keep it. Hullbreacher does address the One Ring, but that's all it addresses. I'm trying to think if there's any other dead weight we can trim here. I mean, Force itself is pretty bad. I think we cut Tamiyo's. She's just not like where we're headed. It's not a great card. We still have a decent blue count. Yeah, 28 creatures is still enough to justify like Vial. Sometimes you get into situations where it's like, my creature count's so low, do I even want to play Vial? But Vial's a very powerful card, as we saw previous game. Like that entire game, the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes of that game was brought to us by Aether Vial. All right, let's play quickly. This is a keep. I like Aether Vial for reasons we saw last game. I like Plow. I'm going to fetch basics this time. I'm going to fetch at least 1 basic. Okay, so we know they have Devour coming. Go and pop that out here. We did beat Eldrazi on the draw. It's worth... Okay, Yavimaya. Wasteland is definitely something we play out after we have our Vial out. I'm going to go ahead and go Plains here because I can go get Underground Sea and then I can cast Overlord. And white is a more important color than blue is in this matchup. Like with this the texture of our current hand. There's nothing I can do to interact here. So they are going to be able to go get something, but they're not going to be able to waste us. Isn't that crazy? Sowing Micah Spawn on turn 2. This deck is just bonkers. All of this was created through Modern Horizons 3. Like they had to know how powerful it was going to be. A lot of this stuff is in Modern too. Okay, I'm glad I have Prismatic Ending. But actually, yeah, I do think I'm going to Prismatic End that. No, I think I'm going to get Overlord ticking down, especially because I can go get Swamp now. I think that's the higher priority. Actually, wasting is probably the highest priority there. Yeah, Overlord is good though. It can be exiled with Devourer, and maybe they'll do that. They may just ignore it. If they ignore it, it'll eventually be a pretty relevant game piece. This is a great card. This gets us our Harbinger 2 turns from now. How close are they to eyeing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They need, I think, 2 more. So I think what I'm going to do is waste eye and then just hit the Chalice. Assuming they don't put some must counter thing into play. Null Drifter. Well, that's pretty damn spooky. So now I almost feel like we have to Chalice and Plow. They get 2 cards immediately. Their hand is stacked. I'm less worried about eye now than I am about this. This is like death. And we can't get rid of this without getting... I mean, we could Recruiter for a Solitude and hit it, and then we don't have to worry about the Chalice, but that does leave... I mean, if we can get rid of the Chalice, then we have Plow up. We also have a Brainstorm up, which may or may not actually be useful here. Gosh, I have to make a decision. I think I'm going to go ahead and get basic. No, I can't get basic if I do this. Okay. I'm going to get, go get a Tundra. And we're going to do the slow thing, which is get rid of this and then Plow Null Drifter. Yeah, because we can't have that connecting. It's an absolute nightmare. They can do it again next turn if they have more than Hullbreachers, but usually they only play like one, maybe, because it's like pretty. It's the top end card. Next turn we can Recruiter and we can stop their mana. Now we can't stop their mana base because they can generate mana just anytime they cast anything. So they're going to burn the hell out of us here. They still may be able to cast It That Heralds the End. It just got cheaper. We're just getting like totally dumpstered here. I think I concede. Seer, I'm going to concede. I don't like that's a 5/5. This is going to hit us for 4. Fleshraker is going to burn us for a bunch. Like, yeah, I mean, we tried. My goodness, are we trying? It's just, how do you hold that back? How do you stop somebody that can Sowing Mycospawn turn 2? Game 3, let's keep our composure. We still have a few minutes to beat them. Days could come back in. I haven't seen any. They're playing Chalice, so they're not playing. They might actually take Chalice out since we showed them Prismatic Ending. They showed us not only a Chalice again, but they also showed us It That Heralds the End, which is one of the. It's the only Eldrazi in the deck that we can actually hit. I think I'm going to take out a Tamiyo. Lavinia does make K command a little awkward, but that's it. That's all it does. Yeah, I think we run it like this. That was an absolute savaging. My goodness. Just completely destroyed. I think we have like 6 minutes maybe because I conceded aggressively. Yeah, almost 6. So if I talk a little less, it's just because I'm like laser focused on not losing. This would be a good hand if it had more mana, but alas. This would be a good hand if it had more mana deck. This would be an insane hand if it had more mana. I've got plenty of lands. Like I know I'm playing Yorion, but you know, I did the math, the hypergeometric math. You should get with 29 lands plus 2 multi-face, which I did sideboard at once. So we have 30 lands in the deck. We should get land more frequently than we are. Okay, so here's what I think we do. Prismatic Ending, we can't even cast it. I'm going to lead Swamp into Vial. I'm going to Overlord just because it represents like doing more. I don't think leading Psychic Frog is that strong. I actually don't think Psychic Frog is even that good against their deck. Overlord is a little harder to deal with. Baleful Strix necessarily creates value, and you don't have to pitch cards to be able to, you know, actually stop the onslaught with Strix. So I'm going to Overlord first because Strix can come in off of Vial, and I might find something good off of Overlord that I want to cast on turn 3. That's a great start in terms of just cards we don't care about. Very happy with our mulliganing decision so far. Okay, that's a great card to pick up, and now we have Overlord. Always yield. We didn't find anything. We found 4 lands. Okay, that sucks. Yeah, that does happen, even when you have like a ridiculously high creature count. Sometimes you just whiff. We're definitely getting the tail end of the variance here. Maybe the universe does not want us to beat Eldrazi, which, you know, I think I've beaten it a few times with this, but it's not a favorable matchup. Maybe it is. I don't know. It's not favorable, but it's not like super duper unfavorable. All right, and now they have whatever they want, basically. Sowing Mycospawn would be the scariest thing. Thought Not Seer. I mean, I'm kind of tempted to just force this because it is a threat that's going to deal damage to us. I'll just stop it. Oh, wait. Oh, wait a second. I could have sworn that they used that mana. Oh, that's really weird. I don't know how I managed to counter that. I was like, oh no, they used that. That doesn't make any sense. What happened? Okay. Well, I'll take it. I'll take anything I can get at this point in this battle against Eldrazi. I'll take this land. Sure. Hopefully it'll line up something better. That is not what we want with our no white mana base. So I'm glad we were able to dodge that. I mean, like, mana is really the most you can ask for here, most you can hope for. And I'm just going to keep taking a Vial, and Yorion is something that can potentially do some damage. I'm not hopeful. Okay, they're actually casting Mycospawn, so I think they're going to get a Wasteland, and they're just going to waste 2 of my lands. But that may not be enough to stop me, depending on what I rip. They could just go get Eldrazi Temple and get closer to I, which is also totally legit. You have Maya. Okay, another Summoning Myco spawn. Yeah, they're assembling their army. A waste. Okay. Respect. They are respecting the Harbinger. We are taking up. That is not a good draw, but am I gonna play it out? I'm kind of like thinking I shouldn't play it out because of the triggers, but I'll just, it may be relevant. And if it may be relevant, like we have 3 minutes and we're not going to win. We're going to just get completely bowled over here. Another wasteland. All right. Yeah, that happens. I'm just going to sit here and be on the front row of the theater of my own demise here, taking chunks of 6. I do think that like they had a slow enough start that if we hadn't had to mulligan twice, we might have had a chance here. I do think ticking Vial up is fine because if we find Solitude, that is a very relevant ability. I can click the other one. Okay. So, yes. Okay. Yes. We're going to take them both up. Days. What a slap in the face. All right. This will be actually in play in time to block something. So even though it whiffed, we may actually be able to stay alive an extra turn because of his presence. Just put us out of our misery. Don't give us hope here. Chalice doesn't matter. We're to cast like half the 1-drops in our deck. Yeah, we're like basically dead, but I have to play it out because we do have this Overlord that they'll probably be able to exile somehow, or even a Dismember will kill it. But it is going to block one of these. Buy us a turn. Yep, here's the bounce spell. Oh, is it exile or bounce? Yeah, it's because it's an enchantment. A huge mistake. All right, it's back, and we get a trigger too. I mean, we're still going to lose, but I'll take literally anything that positive that happens. Strix, thank you. I'll take the Strix, and yeah, I can play that. So this is exile, but we have. I'm really glad I played out the second Vial, by the way. Okay, so now we can actually block both their creatures if they attack in. Which they should still do, probably. I mean, we're like super low. They're going to win through attacking. I will take this Vial up to 3, but I'm not going to take it up beyond that. Oh, they're not attacking in. Oh, another Vial. Okay, well, I can't cast it, unfortunately. I'm going to... no, I will take it up. If we can clear these, we do have an attacker. Holy cow. Is that good? What can we do with this? Oh, I know. We can just attack and get the trigger, and then when they go to block, we can flicker it, and we'll get another trigger. Let's get Recruiter of the Guard. Yep. Are they going to block? If they don't block, then that'll be great. Wow, they're just going to take it. That's great. So we got 5 damage that we were, totally going to... I'll Wisp here. Hit that. It's worth noting that Flicker Wisp can hit a Vial, Chalice of the Void, but you don't want to generally do that. Oh, Solitude. Holy cow. This we might actually have a prayer here. I think I take the other Recruiter. No, I should have taken the Solitude. That was greedy. F6 with 90 seconds on the clock. We're super duper dead. But if we had more time, we might actually be able to claw our way out of this. I should have gotten another Flicker Wisp because I could have attacked and flickered again and then just kept building my army. That would have been way better than what I did. But we're still learning. I mean, I'm like learning the deck. Like I switched out. I put the Flicker Wisps in place of the Felias. I still have one Felia, but it's a 3 Flicker Wisp, 1 Felia split. And so far, I feel like super vindicated. These Flicker Wisps, they've been insane. This is probably going to exile something. We're F6'd. You're not going to get us to burn any clock unnecessarily. I mean, we're so low. I wouldn't fault them for just getting up and making us a sandwich. That's not anything I would do. I think that would be very cheap, but that is something you can kind of technically do when you have clock supremacy, as they do, like 4-fold. Okay, they did take our Recruiter. They are not attacking in. Okay. I'm going to say no. Okay, this does technically, what does this do for us? This gives us the ability to play out another Strix. Yeah, which it's not going to matter because we're so low on time, but I'll just go ahead and do it. As seriously, I had a shot at winning this. Blue, black. Oh wait, we have to actually go get the Strix before we can cast it. I don't think they can get through an army of Strixes, but eventually they will be able to. Black, blue, yeah. I mean, the game's over. Holy cow, that'll be really good eventually. Yeah, we just have to chill. I shouldn't technically have 6 because there's like the very minor possibility that we like daze them. Yeah, they're just going to pass and we're going to concede because we lost the game due to clock. But I think that we would have potentially won. I know it sounds crazy, but let's think about it. So I wouldn't be rushed. I would have made a better decision of getting another Flicker Wisp with Recruiter. We just keep flickering things. We build a giant army of Flicker Wisps and then we storm them. I think that totally could have won. But every minute counted. And I think I had some like distracting stuff here that kept me from focusing on it. But I mean, I would say that we might actually have like a slightly favorable Eldrazi matchup if I'd been pilot. So yeah, see you in round 3. Okay. This is actually round 4. I said round 3 earlier. I misspoke. This looks very keepable. Unfortunately, our opponent is a known Ruby Storm enthusiast. I just don't see how this hand is going to Ruby Storm. And like Ruby Storm's a horrible matchup for us, by the way, but this, yeah. I mean, it's good if they're on anything else. Maybe they changed. This was like a day ago. They were on Ruby Storm. This hand is so good, I would keep it even if I thought they were on Ruby Storm because Vial is the best card in our deck and we have a path to basics. And yeah, so I'm gonna basically assume that they're not on, that anything we do is going to matter here. That's what. Let's go ahead and play out the Vial. And if they just Blood Moon us, that's going to be very sad. But Aether Vial does ameliorate Blood Moon risk a little bit. Okay, looking very Ruby Stormish. This will be another matchup where bringing in Prismatic Ending is good. I think I'm just going to go ahead and fire this off and see what we get because I'm almost certainly going to be shuffling, but I just want to... Oh, yeah. A lot of nothing. Well, if they're on Ruby Storm, I mean, we could, I guess, respect the fact that they might not be on Ruby Storm and keep some of these, keep the planes. I don't know. I think it's more valuable to get the second Vial going than it is to Surveil, but I do want to shuffle this stuff away. So I'm going to go ahead and get a... I don't know. I don't think it really matters, but I'll get a Swamp. And I should have done that the other way, by the way, but I have the planes in hand, so this can get a basic island if absolutely necessary. Wow. Okay. That must mean they have another one or that they just don't have any lands, which we take those. My goodness. Yeah, it's still drawing lands. Never changed deck. I think we do want to apply pressure. I'm going to brainstorm again. I've just did we not fetch last turn? Like this is almost exactly the same cards we had last time. Okay. So we're going to put this back. We're going to put this back. Yeah, that's crazy. I'll just go ahead and do this. I'm going to just get my island. I'll just play just in case. Like I'm almost certain they're on Ruby Storm, but just in case they happen to be on like Moon Stompy, I'll be really embarrassed. Wait, I don't actually need to do anything. I can just... Okay. So our opponent is probably like just laughing at like our indecision. Certainly if they're watching this video, they'll be laughing at like how badly we're playing in terms of like sequencing and stuff. Like we've missed several opportunities to Surveil. Yeah, that's coming in. Okay. Boom, boom. Is it just me or does it keep putting like the actual thing that I need to click below the thing that I have already clicked? I'm just going to move this up here. Okay. I think yes to both here. So many decisions. Okay, Frog. Not bad. All right, this is going to get a Surveil land. Let's attack. Let's create a clue. We could draw something that is castable, like a Brainstorm. So I do think I'm going to go ahead and use the clue now. Solitude. Probably not useful in the matchup. We'll just chill. I'll get a Surveil land, and I will plan to get Frog in. And our opponent can continue to crack their baubles and not find lands. Sorry, opponent. Like, I've definitely been there. It says end step, but like they just conceded, I think. Please tell me my game isn't crashing. Okay, good. So, yeah, that was going to be a very long, boring match. against the completely mana screwed opponent. All right, so Ruby Storm. I'm going to go with Ruby Storm as the deck they're likely on, and we're just going to bring in our entire... Like, Ruby Storm is one of those decks that just does not play like normal decks. They do not fear removal. They do not fear, any of the stuff we would normally use here. Lavinia is very strong against them. Is it? I think this might be a matchup where Lavinia is not that strong. It might be okay. It's not going to be fantastic. Hullbreacher is actually surprisingly bad. Harbinger comes out. It doesn't do anything. Witch Enchanter is actually good. Felia, Bogart Trawler. Their graveyard doesn't really matter here. Baleful Strix, again, it's a blue card, but that's it. Solitude could come out. Like, they have Raj, but Solitude is bad because it gets stopped by Vexing Bubble. Yeah, I think we just cut one more card, and that card can be... Hullbreacher, they literally do not draw cards. Well, they crack Bobble, and they have Metamorphosis, or Metamorphose. Those are the two things that are in their deck. Hullbreacher is a blue card. I totally think it's defensible to just cut one of these. I often cut these in matchups where we need to maximize our blue count. Yeah. See what we can do here. I'm optimistic that Prismatic Ending will be impactful. This is a pretty powerful hand. We've got turn 0 interaction in 2 forms. We've got days. Yeah, I'm going to keep this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to surveil, and we're going to try to find our second land. If we find a second land, Lavinia can come down, Felia can come down. They don't play constructs or anything that we could hit with Felia, so it's purely an offensive card, not a defensive card. Crash issue fixed. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't even know there was a crash issue, but that might explain the recent crashes. Okay. Mountain into Vexing Bauble. Okay, so this is a force. I think I'm going to force this. It's just too backbreaking if it works out. I think I'm going to pitch Brainstorm here. I do need Lavinia as a potential way to lock them out of doing stuff. That's a great draw. And that makes me... I'm still going to do the Surveillant, but it's going to be a blue-white Surveillant for sure. If I have the days, I won't get a Surveillant. Oh, wow. Okay, no play. That's great. They may be scared that I have a force. I don't know. Their deck doesn't have to fear force is the thing, because they just overload your forces very quickly by using cards. Oh, that's great. They use cards like Ren's whatever... just flip 2 cards basically, and okay, do I want to force this card that is going to give them 2 cards? Is that good enough? And usually it isn't. Let's grab an Underground Sea here. I don't expect them to mess with our mana, and we're just going to go ahead and play Lavinia, who is both a clock and a minor piece of disruption. And I say minor, it's very minor in this matchup, but it is not nothing. Next turn we will Recruiter, and what are we going to Recruiter for? I genuinely don't know. If they play a land that we can force or waste, we'll probably waste, and we'll play out a Felia. Okay, we can waste that. I do think we waste that, because that represents them killing our Lavinia, and also wasting them off a land reduces the number of lands they have for the purpose of casting spells. So I'm going to go ahead and do this first. I'll just swing. This is going to be a long game if we did indeed lock them out. I don't think there's any reason to wait. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll wait and see if they put counters on it. Okay, and now I will waste it. And Felia's coming in. We have Hardcast days up, and even if they do a Vexing Bauble into something, Ancient Tomb, that's an even better waste target, but we don't have future vision. Felia's coming in. If we draw a land, we can either Recruiter or Teferi, which would be insane. We can Strix. That's good. So this is where Felia starts unlocking that sweet, sweet value. Boom. Let's go ahead and attack. Felia is going to exile this Baleful Strix. We're going to get another card. And this is why the Esper Blink deck just, starts to run away with the game. Please give me a land. I will take another Strix. That's not bad. Getting a land gives us Teferi, which gives us a lot of breathing room. They now have 4, so I think they can cast basically every instant or sorcery in their deck. But like Raj or Ral, I think is his name. Like if they do stuff off Ral, they don't get to another Strix. Okay, well we're gonna go ahead and use it. There's an argument for just brainstorming to like increase the likelihood of finding a land. I think it's fine to play this out though, because I'm gonna blink one and I'm gonna attack with the other. Flicker Wisp is fine. We can't use it immediately. All right. Belly is going to blink the one that is summoning sick. So we'll get another card. And she also gets buffed when they come back. So this is pretty good. They're like dead on board, basically. Yeah, because 4, 6, 7. Yeah, they're dead on board. That was turbo. We didn't even have to discard, but we are getting close to having to discard. This is their turn to try to win. Bonus round. I think we just dazed this. They just conceded. They're like, oh, they're thinking about it. They probably have a force. I don't know. Anyway, we'll take it. Winning against Ruby Storm, not what this deck does. Like we don't sign up to beat the combo decks. We sign up to beat the fair decks. When we do our crazy transformational sideboard and put 13 cards in. Yeah. All right. We're doing all right. Again, I do consider that match against Eldrazi to potentially be a win. This first match against Doomsday, though, we got completely steamrolled. And then this was a fair matchup, the Beanstalk. So, yeah, like I expect to win the fair matchups other than maybe Eldrazi just because it's so powerful. All right. Speaking of fair matchups in the final round, it looks like we're likely up against this Goblin player. They've been playing a lot of Goblins. Mono red. Of course, we've got the Muxus. We've got 4 of them. We do have 4 broadside to look out for. Oh, wait, this is old. Yeah, okay, never mind. This is from a few months ago, so they may not be on Goblins anymore. I hope they're on Goblins. They've been playing a lot of Goblins over the years. The years? I guess they played Delver back in the day. They might have switched to Delver. They might be on blue-black. Who knows? All right, so we'll just consider this an unknown opponent. Against an unknown opponent, this is an absolute heater. We've got the creature angle covered. We've got the unfair angle covered. And we got the favorite deck card in the deck. We got 2 fetches, which is just how we wrote it up. We love fetches early on because they give all the optionality. Do we want card selection in a surveillant? Do we want to get a dual? Do we want to get a basic? It's just everything you want, and that's why I'm playing 15 fetches, and I've gone as high as I think 17. All right, Wasteland. So we already kind of know what we don't want to do. All right, so I think I'm probably just going to go get Island. I'm going to go Island. Wow. So this is usually like they're most likely on Reanimator with that because they're going to just cycle a troll. No? Okay. Well, I'm very happy if they're not on Reanimator. Next turn, I'm going to go get a... Next turn, I'm not going to get anything. I'm just going to chill because Esper Vial will tick up and we can start popping out frogs. I may pitch a redundant frog. The thing about frog is like it is in theory good to be drawing 2 cards a turn instead of 1, but like often you have to like pitch cards to defend it, and so you can take up 1 frog, but it's very hard to take up the second. Oh, they might be on Slivers or Eldrazi. They chose Eldrazi. Okay, they're on Eldrazi. Great. If that heralds the end is fine. I can just get a plains and plow this. It's pretty weak in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, this is like the least explosive start I've seen from Eldrazi in a while. I would love to get a Wasteland of my own if my deck would be so kind. Definitely pointed at that. I guess the Courtyard, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I'd probably waste this. I haven't seen this in a lot of the later builds. We could bait them wasting us. We don't actually care about our lands. I'm not sure. This probably the plus the mana reduction ability is probably not going to matter this turn cycle. I think I am going to bait them into hopefully wasting us here. No, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one of the frogs. I'm not going to get too fancy. Let's get our swamp here. And it is good to know that we can plow next turn if we need to. But I just want to start attacking and drawing cards. I think to some extent because like I'm used to the power of Strix and like cards that immediately give you gratification. Like I've been casting Frog less frequently than I should and not giving Frog its due respect. If they try to remove my Frog, I'll probably just force whatever they use to do that. 3 mana. Fleshraker. This does buff the tokens. They could have like... I think I do need to hold force just in case they have... yeah. I'm going to hold it in case they have Kozilek's Command because that is like so brutal. And if they want to attack in, I'll happily pitch a card and trade. Or not trade, but have a favorable block. I can't imagine a world in which they attack. This buffs their tokens and it gives them a very broad army. But they're off to such a slow start that I think Plow on Glaring Fleshraker is going to be really powerful. I would love to get a Baleful Strix. Okay, I'll take a Tundra. I'm not going to complain. So I think, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and remove this now. Like, you just don't. If they want to discard, I'll happily do that, but I'm not going to exile my graveyard. I might need these cards later. They're thinking about blocking, which tells me that they may have like a Kozilek's Command in hand. So they're thinking like, oh, I can get them to invest a card, but they don't know that I have force. Dramatic irony. They're taking on this for a long time, which makes me really wonder what's in their hand. Okay, Undercity Sewers. We already played our land for the turn, but this is an easy pitch to Frog. So what I'll probably do is when they attack, if they attack with this, I'll just vial it in and block and pitch Sewers. They are ramping up pretty quickly in terms of mana. That's fine. I don't care about that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this could be, you know, a Thought-Knot here. Oh, is this the muscle guy? Oh, this is Thought-Knot. So what we could do here is we could go ahead and vial in the second Frog, and then we could discard 2 to each of them. I kind of like doing that, and then we have lots of cards we can pitch. Like, this might be overly aggressive, but I'm feeling like this is like these cards are not particularly important. The vial is the important thing, and the cards we rip are going to be a lot more powerful than these random lands. And because I can distribute the power across both of them, it makes me feel less trepidatious about doing this pitch thing. And when we do eventually kill this, we're going to go. We're going to draw yet another card. So yeah, they're most likely going to be able to crash in for 5 next turn because we're going to probably fly both of these Frogs over. We're going to draw 2 cards though and further buff our army. And we may draw like removal or some sort of cool creature we can put in off vial. Right. We definitely want to go up to 3 because our 3 is our critical number and amongst the most powerful stuff. All right. So I'm just going to exile here. We'll exile non-land just because we may be able to get into a situation where we can use these. It's unlikely, but it's possible with Tamiyo if we somehow, sorry for that weird mouth noise, if one of these results in a, I can go get Harbinger with a Recruiter. Or I can just pitch these lands and just continue to grow my Frog army. I think I am going to go ahead and get a Surveillian though, just to manipulate my draw a little bit. Actually, I could just put Yorion in my hand. I don't hate that. This does give them a very obvious thing to try to strip from our hand. They're going to be hitting us for 7. Maybe we should have pitched a land last turn. Green mana. Okay, are they going to exile one of our lands? They don't have kicker mana. Linebreaker is scary as hell. Are we dead? We may be close to dead. Okay, so this is going to get +3. So that's 7 plus 5. 12, 13, 14. That's a lot of damage. They're not going to attack with it if it heralds the end, which is kind of smart in the sense that it forces us to fly the Frogs if we want to connect. But I'm not going to fly those Frogs. I'm just going to attack in. This has to stay low. I don't think Yorion is going to help us here. So here's my thing. We may still be able to win if we can Let's see. If we attack with just one, they're just going to block with if the Herald's the end. We're dead, basically. There's no way to win. Holding back is not going to get us anywhere. If we can kill Thought-Knots here, we draw a card. Solitude, we have Yorion to pitch like for Solitude. I'd probably just hit the Line Breaker. Any card like a Recruiter or anything like that is going to be really good. We can only fly one. They can block one. I'm just going to attack with both. Oh, there's our draw step, which is a dead card. Let's say hypothetically we attack it. This can be as big as a... So 1, 2, 3. So they are going to definitely cast something next turn, I imagine. So we could fly one and just connect with one and keep the other back and keep it stacked. That's the conservative thing to do. I don't know if we can get away with cracking Flooded Marsh or Marsh Flats when we have the potential to take like just a ton of damage off these. See, we're not necessarily dead, but the fact that this gives trample makes blocking like a lot less good. I think I'm going to attack all. And I'm almost certain that they're going to chump. But if they don't, I'm like totally here for it. Because this does represent additional attack power, but it's attack power they don't need. By the way, leave a comment if you think it's reckless for me to attack with both of these. I would love to hear your insights on this because I genuinely don't know. All I know is I got to get rid of this regardless. And this maximizes the likelihood of me finding something. Actually, you know what? Before going to block, I could have just gone ahead and pitched my entire hand, and that would have ensured that we were able to draw. I'm almost certain they're going to block, though. Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't. One. Okay, so, there were decent chances of us finding one of many, many outs in our deck. Of course, we've got Plows. We've got Recruiter. Any Recruiter goes and gets a white card. We pitch to force. We can totally... Well, I mean, actually, we would have been dead if they attacked with both of these. But I probably would have killed this, which would have given us an additional draw on top of that. So, yeah. All right, this is going to be similar to the previous matchup. I didn't see any reason to bring in Ending, but we could probably bring in Ending. On the play days, if they're going to Kozilek's come in, they're always going to go max. So I do think it's worth keeping Days in. And that's my thinking is like, why is Days good in this deck? Because they don't expect it. They're never going to expect you to have a Days in your deck because they're never going to see it. If they do see it, then they'll play around it for the rest of the match. Cards that are bad, though, I think Lavinia is pretty bad. Bogart Trawler is pretty bad. Hullbreacher is super bad. They might have Null Drifter, but like, what world are we preparing for where we actually care about? If Null Drifter is resolving, we probably lost. We actually, I think, did win a game earlier where Null Drifter resolved. I think that's it. I'm inclined to take Witch Enchanter out, but I think it's correct to leave her. Felia is pretty terrible. Like, she basically crashes into any creature they're going to have is going to kill Felia. I think I'm going to clip her. This seems like a pretty good hand. We have a path to getting the Recruiter, or to getting the Harbinger, which is our best way of winning. We have Wasteland. I'm going to keep this. I think we're probably just going to... I mean, the most stable path to victory is to get basics, but we can't really get basics. And, well, actually, we kind of do need to get basics if we're going to take the Recruiter route, or Recruiter for Harbinger route. So, I'll just put this out there and we'll pass. And we're just going to do nothing for the first few turns. Like, I'll definitely Baleful Strix rather than force. But if they do something that needs to be forced, I do have that option early. Mox Diamond. Okay, this is an aggressive build. I haven't seen Mox Diamond in these lists in a long time. Chalice is fine. I don't care about that. I'm kind of inclined to get a Surveil. No, don't do it. Well, yeah. Because I need the blue anyway. Black doesn't matter particularly. I'll just get the blue-black Surveil, and then I can Strix next turn. Can I? I probably won't actually be able to Strix next turn regardless of what I do. Okay, now I can Strix next turn. That's great. All right. And then this will probably not be able to get white. No, we don't have to get white. It'll probably have to get a... I mean, I could definitely see an argument for just wasting that, but I want to get something on board. Yeah, I probably should have wasted that. It represents 2 mana. I mean, they have lots of 2 mana cards, But if they are able to like somehow accelerate out like a, well, it looks like they're very close to being able to accelerate something scary out. This is a force for sure. This card is not remotely beatable, even if we do have the Recruiter. Okay, so we could waste an Overlord, which does not get us closer to our plan. But the problem is, if we go get blue-white, then no. My big problem is if they have another Fleshraker, this doesn't solve that either. If they have a Wasteland of their own, I'm trying to think of... okay, so let's just talk through the line. So now we get Underground Sea, or I'm sorry, we go get a Tundra. We cast Recruiter. They would know that the Harbinger of the Tide is coming if they have... what's it called? I think I'm going to waste. I think I talked myself into wasting and overlording. And the reason for this is going to start ticking down, and we kind of like time walked them a little bit. So this is what JTL005, the creator of the deck, always talks about, is like Wasteland is there so you can time walk. Technically, I am kind of like doing a dangerous thing and attacking with the Baleful Strix, but I do want to keep the clock going because we know that they play Linebreaker, and if they play Linebreaker, we're going to be sorry that we attacked with the Strix there, because it's going to be hitting us for 4, and we could have just blocked and traded with it. Okay, so I'm happy to see Secluded Courtyard because that is not a 2-mana card. Okay, so here is... That's fine, actually, because we have redundancy in Recruiter. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they took Flicker Wisp here, but we're actually pretty far away from casting Flicker Wisp. So this is a situation where had we gone to get the Harbinger, they'd be just taking Harbinger out of our hands. So we're kind of vindicated. Okay, yeah, and Flicker Wisp is never going to be cast anyway this game, just because we're going to... They do have colored mana, they just won't have colorless mana. But I still think it's correct. So now we do have the option of going and getting a Plains, which I think is what I'm going to do here. And I'll just keep Baleful Strix back. I mean, they could waste our Undercity, and that would prevent us from being able to cast this. But we'll deal with that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. All we have to do is come up the board and like prevent them from being able to like fire a whole bunch of stuff out for like a few turns, and then Overlord arrives and things get way better. Overlord can go toe-to-toe with everything in their deck except for Devourer of Destiny. That's the only card in their entire deck that Overlord cannot be victorious after. So if they have a Wasteland, they are heavily inclined to do it. If they can go and search for a Wasteland, they're inclined to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've got 5. They don't have kicker mana, but they're close. They are greening here, which makes me think that they do have Myco Spawn. Blue mana, okay. This can bounce. Did they use green too? Exiled. Okay, so they did exile that. That's good for them. But that's not going to affect the ability for me to... they floated the mana unnecessarily. Please attack into my Strix. I will eventually prevail here if left to my own devices. So they have green but they won't have colorless. And they need double colorless to be able to get rid of her, unless they are also playing Dismember. They're also down to 1 card. So like playing Mox Diamond is not free by any means. We've got a lot of dead draws. I think we've got like at least 12 1-drops in the deck. Oh, I didn't take out Tamiyo. That was what I was supposed to take out. Tamiyo actually, super dead draw. Now that I've talked about her and how terrible of a draw she is, I will probably summon her into existence. This is a good card, but it's not going to help us right now. I mean, okay, let's think about this. Let's say we recruit her. We get Solitude. We're still not going to be able to cast it. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and Harbinger here. And hopefully this locks out enough of their stuff that they can't win. If they attack with just this, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to let it through. We're 1 mana away from Yorioning, which will get us a ton of value. Okay, they are attacking, which is great. I'm happily going to block with Baleful Strix here and get a free card, or get my card back, I guess, off of this. It's a blue card, which is extra useful, but I'm probably going to cast it out. Okay, consign is insane. So I think what I'm going to do here, I am going to go ahead and Strix just to see what we get. Tamiyo, perfect card to pitch to force, and we're just going to attack for 3 here, and we are winning the damage race, I think. We certainly will be next turn when we're attacking with Baleful Strix. I'm not even sure what I'd recruit her for here. Probably another Baleful Strix. Seems like a good card. We don't really have anything that can get rid of this Mox. They have another Mox Diamond, but again, it's colored mana. It's not colorless. If they have another one of these, they could potentially bounce this back to hand, but that only temporarily solves our mana issues. Okay, Delta means we have, I think we Recruiter, Strix, and then, is there something more powerful that we could be getting? I'm just going to go ahead and do it now. And then we'll see what I see in there. Because I do want to like speed up the clock for sure. Witch Enchanter hits one of their Moxes, which seems pretty good. Flicker Wisp does a lot. It's power in the air, and it also generates value. Psychic Frog, of course, just basically wins the game. There's an argument for doing that. I think the card I'm going to get is we can't cast Flicker Wisp. Sorry, wasting everybody's time there thinking about this card we can't cast. I think we get Frog. We have plenty of stuff in our graveyard. We can fly it over and it can get big. And there's no real reason to attack here. Like, I don't want to lose a creature. I'll just wait and I'll attack next turn with Frog. There are a few kind of like random cards they might have in their deck that could just blow us out. I'm trying to think of what those are. Yeah, okay, they conceded. Yeah, we were going to just slowly chip away at them. But I appreciate them conceding so we don't have to burn through as much clock, because we did lose to Eldrazi 2 rounds ago because of clock, which is not a sentence I ever thought I would say, but be real, like I screwed up and I let that happen. Okay, so Tamiyo is probably weaker than these cards we've cut here. I don't think Bogart Trawler is good at all. I don't think Lavinia is particularly strong, but she does limit the size of a Cosmic's Command, and she pitches to both Force and Solitude, so I think she's automatically better than Tamiyo. We did see lots of 0 drops, so I am kind of tempted to bring these in. We could bring this in. Yeah, I think Tamiyo is just like a 0 of. She's like pretty meh and doesn't really do anything consequential. I'll do it like that. And my blue count is pretty low. Let's see. We have like 12, 19, or 9 plus 8, so 17 plus 4 plus 5. It's low. It's a lot lower than I'd like it to be, but we'll just accept it. There's 2 more here. While we're waiting, because, oh no, it's just MTGO processing. Yeah, I think it's about 20 cards. I'm not going to waste mental energy trying to count up the blue count. This is insane. We've got answers to a lot of stuff. Consign will be great. I like this Wasteland in case they... Probably the only land I would aggressively waste is that. Eye of Ugin. Yes, I will waste your Eye of Ugin. And if you have a duplicate, that's fine. The upside of me wasting your Eye of Ugin is so high that I'm just going to go for it. And I'm not going to... Because this card is just... This is probably the most obvious candidate for a card to ban out of the deck if you wanted to like dramatically weaken the deck. Because this is what gives it its endgame inevitability. Because like even if you're like Jeskai Control, the grindiest of control decks, if they are searching their deck every turn, I'm a freaking mad lad. You keep putting these tasty lands into play. I know you're playing like, Moxen. All right, I guess we're done with that. Unless I do draw a third waste, then I'll be back on. Okay, so I think we hold up Consign, and then we try to play on basics with the goal of... Do we play on basics? Yeah, I think we do. So I'm not worried about the bodies on the Eldrazi. I'm worried about the effects. Fleshraker is such a pain. I will probably just go ahead and fetch. Chalice is... It's a magic card. We can still consign to memory. It's just we have to pay extra mana. I think we have enough land that I'm just going to get greedy and surveil. What are we drawing to? We're drawing to like, Strix and like good. And we're going to need the colored mana anyway. So yeah, I'll get this one. I'm going to go ahead and put that into play. I think it's worth the risk. Just having it tick down. Yeah, I'm just going to go full non-basics here. They waste me. I don't want to be screwed off blue. I mean, there's definitely an argument for holding up consign, but it's very costly. And if they just don't do anything, or if they do something that I don't really care that much about, it's going to feel bad. Psychic Frog, that's a great pickup. And Psychic Frog is one of those cards that just turns our relatively dead hand, lots of 1-drops, into very live hand, or a very lively frog. Flesh Trigger, they haven't made a land drop yet. I really hope that I get to kill this in time. But yeah, I am going to Solitude this if they give me the window. I'll just pitch. Yeah, I'm going to Solitude. I'll pitch my Plow. I have so much respect for this card. I do not dare, like, if they made a mistake in priority, but I'm not going to just assume that they didn't have a card. And it doesn't really get that much better. Like, we have a dead card in our hand anyway, so I don't think it's terrible to go ahead and pitch it. All right. Another Solitude, not the worst. So one thing we can do is we can just flicker the Flicker Wisp, or flicker the Chalice, which is one option. The other option, of course, is we flicker our Overlord and we immediately have a 5/5 in play. I think that's better. We can get a Solitude back, and then we have Solitude, pitch Solitude. We're guaranteed to get Solitude. Yeah, I think that's best. I'm going to go ahead and get Tundra here. And if we get a second Flicker Wisp, I definitely will, flicker the Chalice. It is an okay play. It's not an embarrassing play. And I think this is more powerful than putting Frog into play this turn. That's how powerful this is going to be. So we just put 8 power into play. Our opponent is struggling on mana. We've wasted them twice. Let's see what options we have. Witch Enchanter is a land. We already have a Solitude. I think we take the Witch Enchanter. And then if we do get a land, we can blow up the Chalice or something else and add power to the table. This feels really good. Okay, is this another? This is the red guy. He can attack and I can block him. Yeah. Unless you have anything else. Okay, so he's a 4/3, but he can't profitably attack, which I think is the first time in history I've ever faced one and they haven't attacked with it. That's a good feel. Okay, so options. We could just play out the land. We could just hit, Solitude this and then attack and then hold up mana for a consign. I think that's fine. I don't really care that much about hitting the Chalice because again, we can replicate. You could argue that just, don't even get rid of it. But my thinking is let's just clear the path and I don't know. Maybe that was unnecessary and I could have just attacked him. Maybe they, but I'm definitely not holding back. I'm swinging in every chance I get. Now you're going to see the power of a 5-drop that was cheated into play. The Flicker Wisp does give us the ability to flip their Vial, their Chalice. I think I'm going to do that. That adds power to the table too. And then this stops them from being able to play subsequent Vials or Moxen, which they may actually need to play Moxen given their mana base. All right, and now just like that, our hand became unlocked, and something that was a defensive piece is now offensive to them. Feeling really good. We might actually win against Eldrazi. That's annoying, but we are still dealing a lot of damage here. Yeah, I'm going to feel really embarrassed if I lose because I lost my really powerful game piece. Just because I wanted to do, an arguably acute play. So we're going to swing like this for sure. We're going to keep the pressure on them. Do we want a Vial here? I think it's more important to get Psychic Frog out. Psychic Frog has tons of food. Yeah, and we're just going to keep the pressure on and lots of cards we can discard. We can still get Consign with Replicate. This is another one of those line breakers, which we're not too worried about. So it already has haste or it gains haste. So if it gains haste, then we can just hit it with Replicate. Okay, and they're giving it to itself, which is fine. I'm just going to consign it. If I can't counter the card, I'll counter the ability. All right, and now I think we surveil. We're in the market for Solitudes. Teferi's pretty good, actually. Yeah, because Teferi basically buys us a turn, we're going to attack through. I'll just pitch the Vial to make Frog be able to do damage if they block with this. We're going to go blue, white, Teferi. We'll see what we draw before we attack. We drew a land. I think Vial's still the pitch. The game shouldn't last long enough. Oh, wait. Do we have lethal? Let's think. 6 plus 10? There's not quite lethal. So since we're definitely attacking again anyway, I am going to give them an opportunity to put this Wastegate Battlemage in front of our Psychic Frog. Doesn't look like they're doing it. Yeah, I'll just hold this material. No, I think we do discard the Vial. I definitely don't want that. Marsh Flats. I think we do play out a land. I'll feel pretty dumb if I can't like consign some trigger because I don't have mana for Replicate. I'm trying to think of what they could possibly have. They've been so mana screwed this entire game, thanks to Wasteland. And I was saying IRL stuff was disrupting me. Look at my clock. I've been like playing so slow and slow deliberately, but you know, playing tight, not making too many mistakes that at least not that I can perceive. All right, we did it. So that was a victory over Eldrazi, a clean victory. Now, granted, this was a non-standard build that was playing like Mox Diamonds and stuff, but it just shows if this deck can beat Eldrazi on one end and beat Ruby Storm on the other. Granted, we got really lucky with the game one against Ruby Storm. I mean, this deck has legs. Like, is it as unambiguously powerful as Blue-Black Tempo? No. But is it really good against like a much broader spectrum of decks? I believe it is. Yes. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I don't really have any thoughts on the deck other than that, man, Flicker Wisp was so much better. Or it certainly felt better. Like if you imagine all those times that I was drawing Flicker Wisp, those would have been Felias, right? And Felia, like just not nearly as powerful in my opinion, as good old fashioned Flicker Wisp, as long as you had the white mana to support. So we never got to daze anything. I'm still waiting for the day that I get to daze like an extremely greedy, Kozilek's Command, because you know that they're never going to leave mana on the table. You know that they're never going to leave mana on the table with a Fourth Air Lingus, right? If they don't think you have a daze, you know that the moment that they can cast a Null Drifter, they're going to cast it, right? Or a Devourer of Destiny or something like that, right? So there are, I think, Daze is an amazing surprise card, and it's just like people are going to be traumatized by this thing, and I love it for it. So, yeah, the prismatic endings clear, like they were coming in all the time, and bad stuff was coming out. I think this is clearly a good substitution. We didn't play against red deck. Well, we did play against Ruby Storm, but we actually boarded this in against Ruby Storm too. So it's not like we like decreased the density of good sideboard cards. We still had the 3 blasts here. We didn't get paired against Blue-Black Reanimator, which is a favorable matchup, like historically on paper. This deck has had a really good matchup. At Eternal Weekend Japan, it went 4-0. This deck went 4-0 against Blue-Black Reanimator. So I think that we're in a decent spot against it for sure with all the exile-based removal, and now with Bogart Trawler in our deck as well. We never really got to use it. I think we did have it in the game against Beanstalk where they were going to do Euro shenanigans, but we just never needed it. Yeah, I like all the one-offs. I like one Caracas. I think having 2 is excessive, especially now that we're not really reliant on Felia. I do think she's a one-off because there are lots of situations where she can just kind of surprise, but she feels so bad drawing in like more than one. And if your opponent has a Caracas out, my goodness, it is so annoying to have like all these Felias in your hand and like they have a Caracas to stop Felia every single time. So I love this deck. I'm going to play some more videos of it. I totally understand if some of my audience wants to check out for those, but like if you're watching at this point, obviously you're not that audience. You're loving the Vial, and there's just not enough content on Vial. Nobody's making content around this, but this is a legit deck. The black-white version is also quite good, but I just don't think it's safe to go without Force of Will. You'll never see me go without Force of Will. That's all I have to say about that. I'm having a blast. Hope you're having a blast. Hope you're enjoying this and learning a lot. Leave comments with timestamps. If you've watched this far, consider subscribing. Once I get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I get access to the creator program on MTGO. and I can play any deck, and I don't have to like spend a bunch of money. Like, my goodness, I spent like so much money on like Barrowgoyfs, and these Overlords were like $13 each, $14 each when I bought them, and I had to have a whole conversation with my wife. Pre-war formal wear, I played with that one time. I think I spent like $15 on it or something. So yeah, and of course I've got a paper one that I paid like $1 for, but on MTG. So it'll be really cool if I can get into that program. So that is my one ask, is consider subscribing if you're watching this. And until next time, be excellent to each other and party on.